Judges across the US are facing rapid AI evolution. So, how can judges not only get AI use under control, but actually help courts thrive in an AI age? Welcome to Clarity on Tech, a podcast powered by the Thomson Reuters Institute. I'm Zach Warren, the Institute's Legal Insights and Strategy Lead. In each episode, we dive deep into the future of the legal, corporate, tax accounting and audit, and government communities. Today, we reveal a new judge-led initiative addressing how AI is changing the court system, the Judicial AI Consortium, or JAIC. TRI's Rabia Butler sits down with three of the organization's founding judges: Judge Maritza Braswell of U.S. District Court for the District of Colorado, Judge Xavier Rodriguez of U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas, and Judge Scott Schlegel of the Louisiana Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal. Listen in as they describe their plans to ensure how courts remain fair, transparent, and effective in an AI-driven world.
Welcome, and in today's episode, we get to hear directly from the bench at a moment when artificial intelligence is rapidly shaping how information is created, presented, and evaluated in courtrooms across the country. Today, we'll continue our series, Courting Change. As always, I'm Rabia Butler, and we're joined by the three founding members of the Judicial AI Consortium, or JAIC, an unprecedented judge-led initiative created specifically to help the judiciary respond to AI with clarity, responsibility, and real-world practicality. In a landscape crowded with AI frameworks, policy proposals, and technical solutions, JAIC stands out with one central reason. It's built by judges, for judges, with the day-to-day realities of administering justice at its core. In this conversation, Judge Braswell, Judge Schlegel, and Judge Rodriguez share the origins and the mission of JAIC. They'll also walk us through what it looks like to launch a consortium from its early execution while balancing the immense demands of judicial services. Whether you're a legal professional navigating AI and litigation, a technologist interested in the public sector governance, or simply someone concerned about how justice evolves alongside new powered tools, this episode offers an unusually candid look at the judiciary and proactively shaping the intersection of AI and administration of justice. Welcome, judges. Um, so I just want to jump right in. Each of you has been very, very vocal about AI in a great way, and you talked all about its place in the judiciary, and now you formed JAIC. What makes this consortium in and of itself very unique, and why is it so critical to you? Let's start with you, Judge Braswell.
Sure. I think what makes this unique is the collaboration and the ability to connect with our peers across the country. I mean, when you're a judge, you're doing a lot on your own. Obviously, you have a team. I have a fabulous team of clerks and a courtroom deputy, but the team is relatively small. And we all know that we got to make these decisions on our own. But why not have the benefit of connecting with other people who are working through the same issues, who are thinking about the same tough questions. And I think that's what makes it so unique is the ability to connect not only, as we sort of happen to pass by each other at a conference or in the context of a project, but really to have this hub where you can say, okay, if I want to talk to other folks who are thinking through the same thing, I know there's one place I can go where it can be a candid discussion. It's just judges. It's not like you're going to be in a setting where perhaps your words get taken out of context. We all know the tough work that we do, and we understand each other, and I think that makes it just a really safe and comfortable space to learn. And that's what this is all about. It's about learning from each other.
And Judge Schlegel, why do you find it so critical?
I'm just going to echo what Judge Braswell said. This was her idea. She called, and from the third word, I said, yes, I'm in. What can we do to help? Because we need to all row in the same direction. There's no reason whatsoever that we need to learn in silos. I'm on the state court bench. Judge Braswell and Judge Rodriguez are both on the federal bench. And we're all seeing the same challenges and the same difficulties, whether that's what tools should we be using? What securities should we be considering? What should we and shouldn't we put in those LLMs or those Gen AI tools? And there's just so many questions that all of us are having, and we should have. And I always say it's not our job to be first; it's our job to get it right. And so I'm very excited about JAIC. I'm very excited about the opportunity to learn from state and federal colleagues across the country, and it's wonderful to be a part of it.
And last but not least, Judge Rodriguez, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so me and two other professors from Northwestern Law School, along with a couple of people from the New York City Bar, have done a survey of federal judges across the United States, magistrate judges, district judges, bankruptcy judges, Court of Appeal judges. And, the results of that survey hopefully will be coming out in a couple of weeks. It's going to be published in the Sedona Conference Law Journal. But I've seen the preliminary results, and we as judges are all struggling here with AI. The results in part show that a lot more judges are playing around here, in part for personal reasons, in part for trying to figure out how to embed this in our workflows in chambers. But Judge Slagle just hit all. Everybody's asking, well, how and what tools should I be using for research? What are the parameters of security that we need to be concerned about? And one thing that this survey is showing, uh, we asked a question: how many of you all have received any training whatsoever in AI? And it was a minimal showing. I'm talking like 15% of the surveyed judges said that they've received any training. So we're all sort of floundering, and this is where I think JAIC can sort of help.
So, for anyone who's not under a rock, we know that February 25th was the inaugural meeting. What do you see as the foundational focus of the consortium, Judge Slagle?
We just talked about it. It's just creating a space for judges to jump in, not worrying about the words that they choose, and just sharing with each other about, hey, look, Judge Rodriguez just said it. The AI training is minimal, but what does AI training even mean? I mean, here's what an LLM is. Here's what Gen AI means. So training and training are two different things. And so the real point of it and the real foundation is that and Judge Braswell came up with a great word: pop-ups. We're going to just have a lot of pop-up conversations where you jump in for 30 or 40 minutes and figure out who's doing what and where everybody's going, so that we can build and develop best practices. Again, appellate court judge and trial court judge, state and federal, they're all completely different jobs. Magistrate judge, these are all completely different jobs. So it's great to be able to get on with a bunch of appellate court judges and go, how are you using it? Because that workflow is uniquely different than a magistrate court judge's workflow.
And Judge Rodriguez, what do you find the foundational focus is, or what is it most critical to you?
Yeah, so I regrettably did not make the first meeting. I was speaking at the University of Florida at the exact same time. So I'm actually waiting for the debriefing from my two colleagues. But what I'm hoping we get out of this is I think we don't want this to be yet another sort of vendor-driven training kind of component. I think we're all in agreement that's not what we want to happen here. But there's going to need to be some hybrid of discussion and then show and tell to judges about, because we don't know what we don't know, right? And so I think we need to give some illustrations, and hopefully other judges will be popping up on these segments saying, well, this is what I have found helpful, and let me share with you, because that sharing component is really missing.
Judge Braswell, from your focus, what do you think the foundational focus of the consortium is?
Yeah, similar to what Judge Slagle and Judge Rodriguez shared. I mean, judges are interested in talking with each other. We've had over 200 judges sign up for JAIC, which has been incredible. And when we had the call, we had almost 100 folks joining the call. So it was a really great showing. And I think it reflects the level of enthusiasm that there is for a group like this where people can just connect with each other. In terms of the things we plan to tackle, We ran a little bit of a survey within the meeting. So in the meeting, we used a platform that allowed us to capture information. There were so many people on the call that we really needed a way to live capture information about what people were thinking. And it showed that people are most interested in really understanding how folks are using AI in chambers. But there was also a lot of enthusiasm around working through issues of AI in our courtroom when we're not using it, right? So as lawyers are bringing it into the courtroom, how do we deal with that? Obviously, the big spotlight has been on hallucinations, but we all recognize there's more to deal with than just that. There's deep fakes, right? There's the issue of bias. There's the issue of, if you're in trial and folks are using AI for visuals, right? I mean, there's a lot to work through, and judges are cognizant of that. And I think the one thing we all have in common is we want to get it right. We're in these positions because we want to serve, and service means doing the very best we can for as many people as we can. And so we're always thinking about how to do better.
Judge Rodriguez, let's start with you on this one. What role should judges play in shaping the landscape around AI as contrasted with deferring legislators and regulators for policymaking and other guardrails?
So there's going to be a combination, right? Many of the states have already engaged in some kind of regulatory aspects of AI. For state judges and federal judges in those jurisdictions, we're going to have to apply those regulatory regimes. Uh, the Europeans have been at the forefront of this to the extent that we might have some international issues combined with our work here. We're going to have to see what, if any, deference and comedy is needed to be given to those European regulations. But I think overlaid on top of all that is, okay, then how does the judiciary have its own sort of regulatory aspect of this? I think it's going to come in two ways, of course, the rules of civil procedure and the rules of evidence. From the rules of civil procedure, I think we're going to have to start adopting some thought to the discovery process. If AI is now going to be used in the discovery process, as it is already, are prompts going to be discoverable? Are we going to be subjecting those to a work product analysis? How are we going to demonstrate that whatever productions that were made with an e-discovery AI tool were sufficient? And so, just like what we did 10 or 15 years ago with predictive coding and TAR, I think we're going to now go into an age of AI. And then we're going to see from the evidentiary standpoint, it's just, as Judge Braswell mentioned, how to deal with both the arguments that someone has created a deep faked generated video in lieu of real evidence. Um, we're going to need to have some kind of a regime going, well, you just can't simply call deep fake. There's going to have to be some modicum of a showing that it's not what it purports to be. I'm real curious to see just how we're all going to challenge the whole process. I mean, who are going to be the experts that we're going to be needed? What kind of education, training, and experience are these experts going to need to have? I am very worried about the additional cost to the whole civil litigation system now when we go down this path. So there'll definitely be a role for the judiciary in creating its own procedural and evidence rules, and then whatever the states and the federal government will come up with.
Rabia, can I jump in on something? Because I think Judge Rodriguez just highlighted something that is really important, and I think speaks to sort of the larger issues and sort of ecosystem around all of this. He said, what kind of experts are we going to need? One of the things that's happening is, just as AI is fast evolving in the legal space, it's fast evolving in society, right? And there's a lot of moving pieces. The landscape is sort of shifting, under our feet as we speak. Um, Purported experts are popping up all over the place, right? Like all kinds of folks who say, I'm an AI expert, I understand how this works. At the same time, we know that these are systems that are in many ways unexplainable, right? It's there's the sort of black box problem. And so I think there is going to be a real question of who do we turn to, right, to really get the real information, to make sure that it's not information that is sort of laced with a particular perspective or bent. How are we really going to target kind of that neutral ground? But these are the things that we're going to be dealing with sort of in real time, and I think that's one of the great benefits of JAIC, right? Because across the country, we can all connect with each other and just what are we seeing, right? What are we experiencing? Who's in our courtrooms? What are they saying? And how can that help us think differently or better about the issues we're facing?
And last but certainly not least, Judge Slagle, what are your thoughts?
I mean, you can see it. It's such a big issue. It's such a big problem. We don't have enough time in today to hit it all. We've got AI experts that they just said using AI improperly. You've got reports of FRE code, the Federal Rules of Evidence. They have a committee looking at whether or not they should modify the Code of Evidence. In Louisiana, we took the approach of modifying the Code of Civil Procedure. When you have experts come in, do you need to ask them, well, did you use AI to form the basis of your expert opinion? And should we be handling that pretrial, of course? We're going to live, I always say, we're going to live in motion eliminate hell, but that's better than somebody yelling deep fake in the middle of a trial and having to try the thing twice. So, it is what it is, as long as everybody is working together in unison. And I think that's really the focus of this is awareness. We can't answer all of the questions. There are far too many questions, but we need to be asking the questions out loud so we can be thinking about, I didn't think about the expert piece. Oh, I didn't think about the fact that you can wear meta glasses in a courtroom and start recording, or a witness wearing these AI enhanced devices that can actually feed them answers in real time through an earpiece or through their smart glasses. These are they're novelties today, but tomorrow they're going to be on everybody's faces and everybody's ears. And we just need to start asking these questions over and over again so that we can answer it. And what you'll find from the bench is that we are really experts in our workflows. And so when we hear a particular Gen AI tool, if we understand the availability or the possibility of Gen AI, we can step back and go, you know what? That is very interesting. I think it would be appropriate in this circumstance if I can set it up in a proper way, whether that's in case management, whether that's in drafting or revising, whether that's in access to justice issues. The point of this is we need to keep asking these questions together so that each one of us can understand the potential use cases that are helpful and the potential pitfalls. And that's what I love about JAIC. That's what I'm personally excited about JAIC, because I can't think of every scenario by myself, and I don't think that any of us can. So I'm excited about it and can't wait to hear more and more questions. And that's what Maritza was talking about. There was a lot of questions during our first meeting, which is awesome. So now we can start. I'm not saying we can answer all the questions, but we can start saying and lead discussions and saying, well, here's how I'm handling in Texas. Here's how I'm handling in Colorado. Here's what I'm seeing in Louisiana. And then just kind of keep pushing forward until we get it right.
So that led perfectly into the next question I wanted to ask. What role do you all see JAIC playing in shaping this landscape that we're coming upon? Judge Braswell, what are your thoughts?
One of the things that we were very clear about in our first meeting, and we've been clear about in all of our communications, is we're not creating policy or trying to create consensus, right? Every judge is responsible for making their own decisions under the particular facts of their case and the context that they're in and the jurisdiction they're in. So we're not trying to consensus build. What we are trying to do is, again, help judges become more aware. I love how Judge Slagle phrased it, which is ask the right questions, right? Questions that you wouldn't have even thought to ask now that you're in this room or virtual room and folks are asking the questions. It causes you to then ask the question at the next hearing or, with the next group. So I think the role that JAIC plays is to help judges just be more aware. And I think one of us already said this, just awareness, right? Awareness for what's going on. I think along the way, in the process of becoming more aware, I think judges are also going to become more equipped to handle these issues when they come up to develop policies for their own chambers. Soon after the JAIC meeting ended, I had emails from folks saying, "Can I get a copy of your policy? I have a chambers policy for AI use in my chambers." So, resource sharing, I think that's a huge part of it. And so, I think the role that JAIC plays in this shifting landscape is to help better equip the judiciary to deal with the uncertainty that AI is presenting. And I think Judge Slagel's right. It's both how do we leverage these tools, how do we use these tools for increased access to justice, better work, better serving the public, and then also how do we stay away from or avoid as best as we can the potential pitfalls of this technology, because there are many.
And Judge Rodriguez, what do you feel that Jake can do in this landscape?
Yeah, so Judge Brassel is correct, right? We can't be consensus building. There's just each case is unique. The other part too is that underlying any judge's use of AI, the judge is responsible for his or her own opinion, and so we can't be, for ethical reasons and other reasons, we can't be sort of another body in the chambers there assisting that judge in making that decision. So that's not the purpose of JAIC. But we need to equip judges to how to use JAIC responsibly in their decision making process, and then how to use JAIC. I mean, pardon me, how to use AI tools in a secondary setting. And so that's where I think the information sharing is going to be all the crucial part. And the the challenge that we all face as judges, both federal and state, is we're all being asked to do a heck of a lot more with less. And so in the federal system, there hasn't been new judges created in 25 years. Meanwhile, the population of the United States has increased like 20 million people. And the state system is truly where the brunt of the work of legal cases are handled. And so we're being asked to do more with no resources being given to us. And this is where AI tools could potentially help augment, not replace, not displace, but augment our independent judicial decision making. And this is where we need to share, for all our sakes, this is a resource, a tool that can help us get there.
But I like how you were talking about building JAIC. I mean, we could just build you a JAIC LLM, and that's your agent now that we put in your chamber. So more to come. JAIC will be created soon.
If we could do that, we'd all make a lot of money.
So, with all that being said, how can the judiciary maintain the public trust and transparency in the face of a technology that is often called a black box? Judge Schlegel, what do you think?
I say this all the time, and we're all going to say it. The judicial authority rests in the judicial officer. Don't turn it over to the bot overlords. And I use this example over and over again, and I always ask, Rubina, how much do you think my robe weighs, or Xavier's robe, or Maritza's robe? How much do you think it weighs?
A lot. Proverbially,
and I always say,
it seems to weigh a lot.
Yeah, and I always say, look, until you've put it on, you can't possibly understand the weight of it. And if you're not ready for it, it'll crush you. And if you misuse it, it weighs so much you'll hurt somebody. And if you use that as a framing and understand and appreciate how important the role of judges and human judgment and how we affect and impact lives every single day, you'll be okay, because you'll use this tool cautiously, because you'll understand its place. And its place is like any other piece of technology we've ever used, any other support staff we've ever used, anything that we've ever done has been to support the role of human judgment. And understanding and appreciate that, we'll be okay. If we forget that, if we over rely on these tools, if we build them and place them where they don't belong, well, then you're going to hurt somebody. And I think everybody yesterday that we talked to that was on the call, that was one of the ones that was raised, and we agreed. Don't you think of this as an ease or a convenience. See this as, if I can take a child custody dispute where parents are really, need an answer and the children need an answer, I can take that 6-month process and maybe reduce it to 3 months, because I can use these tools to help with, let's just say, legal research, this easy one. Well, then that's an augment that would be helpful and beneficial. not, hey, if you used Grok or if you used ChatGPT or Gemini, you would have had your kid this weekend, but you used the wrong LLM. That is not the road that we want to go down.
So, Judge Braswell, in talking about the trust and transparency, do you think there are also other ethical considerations we need to be aware of?
I mean, the rules of professional conduct, the ethics that we're all bound by, right? Judicial conduct. I mean, none of that goes away. I think sometimes there's this tendency to think, well, we're in this completely uncertain space, and so we don't know how to deal with it. That's not quite true because the same frameworks still apply. The rules are all out there. This is a new technology, but as Judge Rodriguez said earlier, we've done this before, right? We've applied new technologies to old frameworks, and that's what we need to do now. So none of that goes away. To me, I agree. Trust is paramount, and it's trust on multiple levels. Obviously, it's the public trust, right? And so being thoughtful about how we use these tools so that the public continues to trust us. It's trust in our own internal organizations as well, right? You can't just sort of bring these tools in and assume that everybody is going to know how to use them, be comfortable with using them. I mean, organizations, including the judiciary, including your own, small chambers, there needs to be communication, open communication, conversations around the guardrails for these tools, which is why I think a policy is so critical, right? No matter what setting you're in, no matter how small your team is, a very clear policy on AI use is critical to those guardrails, to ensuring compliance with ethical standards, and to trust. To me, AI is more than just a technology shift. It's really sort of a culture shift. It's a societal shift. And so it's in a lot of ways kind of a change management issue, right? And so that requires a lot of open communication, a lot of trust building. And we don't get there, no matter how capable the tools are, no matter how good they get, we don't get there unless we're thoughtful about that change management process.
And Judge Rodriguez, do you have anything to add there?
So we've been through all this before. I'm old enough that, when I went to law school, it was the traditional shepherdization process to make sure a case was still good. And then,
Shepherdization? What's that?
yeah. And so then,
Books. You probably don't know what it is. It's
Books.
books.
No.
and so then, Westlaw and Lexis comes out, and oh my God, we have sprinkled voodoo on this. And everybody was concerned about accuracy and whether things were going to get missed, and we fretted about that. And lo and behold, Westlaw and Lexis and all these other legal providers have done a great job of enhancing our ability to find cases quickly and accurately. And then, the dangerous fax machine came out. Oh my goodness, there is a box that produces a piece of paper that someone inadvertently might walk by and look at that piece of paper, and our attorney client or work product is going to be all waved. And we fretted about that. And then we fretted about Blackberries, and we fretted about email, and we fretted about cloud services. We in the legal world do a great job about worrying ourselves. Now, is AI different? Yes, I agree. Does it provide a new dimension of concerns that we need to address? Yes. But, we will overcome this just like we've overcome all the past.
So, I have one final question for each of you, and we'll just do it round robin style. What are you most excited about when you think about the future that justice and AI can provide in an integrated world? Let's start with you, Judge Schlegel.
Retirement. No, I'm kidding. You won't need me. Turn it over to the bot overlords. No, I can't wait for the efficiencies that we get out of it. Again, I talked about that, the 6 month to 3 month period, whether that's in chambers, whether that's in case management, whether that's in, helping people walk through the system and access to justice. I mean, when you are in a lawsuit, whether it's a car accident, child custody, or in the criminal setting, dealing with criminal charges against you or being the victim of a criminal, we as judges talk about, oh, we'll set that in 30 days, or we'll set that in 3 months, or we'll get a decision to you. In real people's lives, time matters. And if we can use these tools to compress the time frame, we still need to get it right. We still need to think about this. We still need to do the job. But if we can use these tools to make us more efficient, effective, and design a more accessible justice system, that's what I'm personally most excited about. And to Xavier's point, we are asked to do a lot with a little. And if these tools can help that fill that gap and fill that void, then we'll be okay.
So, playing hot potato, Judge Rodriguez, what are you excited about?
So I'm already seeing this, and I think it's only going to get better. I, as a judicial officer, can engage the case, the lawyers, the litigants before me much more meaningfully. I can get a quick summary. I can get a chronology. I can start posing questions on the AI tool. It can suggest questions I need to further develop. It's already allowing me, and I believe it's only going to get better, to have a more meaningful dialogue and a better understanding of the case. It's not a tool I'm using to adjudicate the matter, but it's helping me to understand it better, quicker, and faster.
And last but certainly not least, we'll let you have the last word on excitement, Judge Braswell.
100% access to justice. I think we've been nibbling around the edges of access to justice for a long time, right? Trying to figure out how to make the system better, more accessible, especially to underprivileged or marginalized communities. And we just haven't figured out what that unlock is. And I really believe that this is the tool that can help unlock that. And it's for lots of reasons. It's because it's a tool that's available to the masses. It's intelligence in people's in people's hands, at people's fingertips, but also for the reasons that Judge Slagle and Judge Rodriguez just alluded to. We can do our work faster sometimes. We can do our work better sometimes, not by automating or delegating judgment, but by augmenting ourselves. And in moving, cases through the system faster and more meaningfully, we will be granting more people access to justice, right? So it's sort of the bookends to it. It's giving people more access to tools and intelligence, and also giving judges more opportunities to augment themselves and do the work better, even though we have fewer resources and more cases every single day. So access to justice 100% is the thing I'm most excited about.
So this has been an absolutely amazing conversation with three of my favorite AI judges. I'm very excited about what JAIC brings to the table, about how this innovation and transparency can give us a little bit more access to justice. So with that, thank you, Judge Rodriguez, Judge Slagle, and Judge Braswell, and we look forward to talking to you guys again in the future.
Thank you to Judge Braswell, Judge Rodriguez, Judge Slagle, and Rabia for joining us today. Courts may not be known for moving the most quickly historically, but AI is a topic that demands rapid response and a flexible approach. I'm excited to see this new consortium take up the mantle to provide a path forward, because legal AI issues will only become more complex from here. Make sure to follow the Judicial AI Consortium to see how they develop their path forward for AI for the judiciary. Thank you as always for joining us for Clarity on Tech, powered by the Thomson Reuters Institute. You can follow or subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and don't forget to share with your colleagues, leave a 5-star review and a positive review on YouTube. For more data-driven analysis of today's professional services market and in-depth conversations with industry thought leaders, please visit us online at thomsonreuters.com/institute and follow us on LinkedIn under the Thomson Reuters Institute. Clarity on Tech is a production of Thomson Reuters, copyright Thomson Reuters 2026.